Hey guys, and welcome to another edition to the Get Started series, in which we cover talents, PvP talents, Azerite traits, stats, and how to do damage, and even more. In this episode, we're going to be covering Beast Mastery Hunter. This video has been put together with Illustrated, also known as Adam Rex. He is an 8 times rank 1 tournament competing hunter, and considered by many one of the best in Europe. As always, let's get started by covering the talents you will be wanting to run in Arena. Generally, for Arena your talents are quite generic, but a few change depending on the situation, but we'll cover that now. As a baseline, your talent should look like this. Up first are the level 15 talents, where we have the option to choose between Killer Instinct, Animal Companion, and Dire Beast. Killer Instinct should be the default choice here, and can be taken when you find you are getting enemies consistently low and having high uptime, as it's going to equate to more damage overall and more damage during your important burst windows. Animal Companion is currently very weak, providing even less damage than selecting no talent at all. You should never take this in any scenario. Dire Beast deals some decent damage and provides you with a haste boost. It's a 20-second cooldown and gives you some decent burst and an extra pet. For the level 30 talents, we have the choice between Scent of Blood, One with the Pack, and Chimera Shot. Scent of Blood makes it so that your Barb Shot generates 8 additional focus when used. This is a fine talent from a PvE standpoint, in a perfect scenario where you are freely doing damage, but doesn't really have a place in PvP. One with the Pack gives your Wild Call a 20% increased chance to reset the cooldown on Barb Shot. This is more RNG based and provides less damage overall than Chimera, and with us not valuing crit in PvP, it loses even more effect. Chimera Shot is the default choice for PvP. It provides a decent amount of damage on 2 targets and generates 10 focus. This, when used off cooldown, provides much more consistent damage and burst than the other 2 options. On the level 45 tier, you have the option to choose between Trailblazer, Natural Mending, and Camouflage. Trailblazer gives you 30% movement speed whenever you haven't been attacked for 3 seconds. This shouldn't ever be taken for Arena, as even a single dot tick will take it off. However, for rated battlegrounds it has a place to move around the map faster if required. Natural Mending should be the default choice here, as it allows you to reduce the cooldown of your exhilaration when spending focus, giving you a little extra healing over the course of a game. Camouflage can be taken when playing certain compositions like with a rogue. This will help you ensure you get the best opener. It can also be taken in battlegrounds to move around the map in stealth. For the level 60 talents, we have the choice between Venomous Bite, Thrill of the Hunt, and Murder of Crows. Venomous Bite is weak in PvP, as it requires you to Cobra Shot too much to have any impact in an arena game, and with Cobra Shot only being a filler, it's not used that often, making this talent useless. Thrill of the Hunt makes it so that your Barb Shot increases your critical strike by 3% for 8 seconds, and it stacks up to 3 times. This can be decent, but requires you to be keeping it up to have any use of the buff at all. This isn't always possible in PvP, so shouldn't be taken. A Murder of Crows is some strong single target burst damage on a 1 minute cooldown. This is some really strong damage that you can effortlessly do. Combining Murder of Crows onto a target when you've secured crowd control onto an enemy healer can easily help in securing a kill, and should be the default choice in all scenarios. On the next row, we have the option to choose between Born to be Wild, Post Haste, and Binding Shot. Born to be Wild is a flat 20% reduction on Cheetah and Turtle. This is fine, but games are often short, so you will not be getting much use out of this talent, as you would the other 2 talents on this row. Post Haste should be the default choice here, as it gives you a 50% increased movement speed when using Disengage, and also allows you to escape all movement impairing effects. This can help with kiting and even to land traps. Binding Shot is now an AoE route instead of a stun, This can be considered when you don't need the extra mobility from post haste, but you need more pills for other members of your team, such as when facing compositions that train your healer, you can easily root the DPS off them, allowing your healer to escape, or even can be used as a tool to help land traps. For the level 90 talents, we have the option to choose between Stomp, Barrage and Stampede. Stomp gives you some more passive do-nothing damage, making your pet do some decent damage every time you press Barb Shot, which you are using off cooldown. Compared to the other two, this is the most consistent damage and should be taken in almost all scenarios. Barrage does some weak AoE damage. This is only good versus a large number of targets, so it can be considered in battlegrounds, where you're going to be doing big scale team fights. For arena, it should never be taken. Stampede is a 3-minute offensive cooldown that does some strong AoE damage around you. This can be used as a tool when you know the game will be short or you need to score a kill fast, and value burst over the more consistent damage Stomp provides. Finally, last up, we have the choice between Aspect of the Beast, Killer Cobra and Spitting Cobra. Aspect of the Beast should be the default choice here, as it flat out increases the damage of your pet and its abilities by 30%, while also increases the passives of your pet, giving you and your pet some extra defensive stats. Killer Cobra is more focused around PvE, giving you some increased burst when left to freely do damage. However, Aspect of the Beast provides a much bigger damage and passive boost overall. Spitting Cobra should never be taken, as the damage it provides is very weak and can easily just be line of sighted, making the talent useless. Now in Battle for Azeroth, Honor talents have changed. We have the option to choose between all of the current Honor talents and can take any 3 at a time, as well as a trinket choice. Let's start with the trinket choice. Like in Legion, we have the option to choose between Adaption, Relentless and Gladiator's Medallion. First up is Adaption. This automatically trinkets you out of the first 5-second or longer crowd control that hits you. This in theory is good, as you basically have a trinket on a 1-minute cooldown, but no control over it. However, it can easily be exploited by your opponents, as they can see you are playing it, meaning they could potentially bait your trinket and then set up a kill on you with all cooldowns in the next setup. Our second choice is Relentless. This is a flat 20% reduction on all crowd control, but you lose any control over your trinket. This can be considered versus compositions with a high amount of crowd control but limited burst or stuns. A great example is this versus Shadow Priest Mage. They have an abundance of crowd control but limited damage, meaning it's often better to have the reduced duration Relentless offers. Last up is Gladiator's Medallion. This makes your 3-minute Honors Medallion a 2-minute cooldown. This should be the default option and taken in most scenarios, as it offers you full control over your trinket and the ability to score a kill or survive. Up next are the Honor talents. Here you can see all of the Honor talents that are currently available. I've marked ones that we will be using often with a green tick, situational ones with a question mark, and ones we will never be taking with a red cross. However, there is one Honor talent that you should always be taking, and I'll cover why now. The one talent you should always be taking in all situations is Dire Beast Hawk. This summons a hawk in a circle around a target area, dealing some strong damage to targets for 10 seconds. This, when combined with a stun, can deal some insane damage to a target and should always be taken. Next up is Dire Beast Basilisk. This should also be taken in any situations where you don't need the extra defensive that the rest of your talents provide. This also, when combined with a stun, can deal some insane damage and is your second best Honor talent when damage is required. Dragon Scale Armor provides you with a 20% permanent damage reduction versus damage over time compositions. This should be taken versus all dot comps such as Warlocks and Shadow Priests, or even Boomkins. High Explosive Trap can be used effectively on all Z-axis maps, giving you the ability to knock down enemies, to either peel or to make it so they have to waste time getting back up. This should also be taken in rated battlegrounds on maps where you can take advantage of the terrain. Hunting Pack is generally quite weak and shouldn't ever be considered as a talent choice. It reduces the cooldown on your cheetah by 50% and gives your teammates some extra mobility. You can still, however, get slowed with this up, so it's not that useful when compared to the other talents. Interlope directs the next hostile spell your enemy casts to your pet. This is good in theory, but requires your pet to be in 10-yard range, so can often not be put to good use, and when compared to the other talents is generally quite weak. Roar of Sacrifice can be used on allies to make them immune to critical strikes. This can be effective versus certain casters that rely heavily on crit, such as fire mages and frost mages, giving your ally an extra way to survive. Scorpid Sting is a shorter cooldown Roar of Sacrifice that can use on an enemy, flat out reducing their critical strike by 50%. This can be good versus warriors and rogues that do a lot of physical damage, and can be put on them to help reduce some damage for you or your team. Spider Sting can be taken situationally versus casters if you need an extra defensive. It will silence the target for 4 seconds after casting a spell. Some good examples would be against frost mages when they pop Frozen Orb. They will look to spam instant damage, so Spider Sting will shut them down, meaning they are unable to do any damage for the duration. Survival Tactics makes your Feigned Death reduce all damage you take by 99% for 1.5 seconds. This can be used as a tool in rare occasions to counter single target nukes like Chaos Bolt from Destro Warlocks, for example. The Beast Within makes it so you and your pet are immune to fear for the duration of Bestial Wrath. This is fine in theory against Priest and Warlock teams, but for Arena there is much better options to take. Viper Sting can be applied to healers to reduce healing they do by 30% until they cast a non-instant healing spell. This is very strong when you need some extra finishing power and can be taken specifically versus Restoration Druids, as they don't often cast, making it hard for them to remove the debuff without dispelling it. Last up is Wild Protector. This is good when facing melee, as your pet will always be on one of the melee, and making it so your pet is always in range of an ally, giving them a permanent 10% damage reduction. Some common talent setups I've been running look like this. Now in Battle for Azeroth, we've gained access to some extra traits that buff our abilities in certain ways. You can get an Azerite trait on your head, shoulders and chest, and you have a main trait, roll trait and then a defensive trait. You can stack these up to 3 times, however, for Beast Mastery the current best setup is to have 3 different ones, as only the damage and mastery benefits stack from Primal Instincts and Feeding Frenzy. The current best trait setup for Beast Mastery is to have one of each of these 3 traits. Primal Instincts gives you a flat mastery buff and 1 charge of Barbed Shot, allowing you to more easily keep up your Frenzy buff. Feeding Frenzy increases the duration of your Frenzy buff, meaning you are able to yet again maintain it easier, and also adds a little damage on top of that. Haze of Rage is flat out single highest DPS trait you have, so combining the 3 gives you great uptime on Frenzy and then some increased mastery on your burst. For roll traits, you should be looking out for Overwhelming Power and Heed My Call. Heed My Call does some decent damage, while Overwhelming Power provides a decent bonus to your overall damage. For defensive traits, there are a few ones you should be looking out for. These are Duck and Cover and Azerite Fortification. Duck and Cover makes your Feigned Death into a mini defensive cooldown and also reduces its cooldown substantially. This also combines well with the Honor talent Survival Tactics. Azerite Fortification, however, just assists you in being able to survive stuns, allowing you to more easily get off defensive cooldowns. Now in Battle for Azeroth, once again stats and gear matter. There is no more templates, so making sure you are going for the correct stats on gear is very important in gaining that edge. For Beast Mastery, your 2 strongest stats are currently Haste and Mastery, after Agility. You want to be getting a balance of the 2, primarily focusing on Haste, as it gives you passive focus regeneration and reduces the cooldown of your Barbed Shot and Kill command. The more haste you have, the smoother your rotation is. However, Mastery is a flat out damage increase to all pets and their abilities, so both stats are insanely good. Versatility is fine in some moderation, but crit should be avoided due to it being 50% less effective in PvP. As for enchants, primarily go for Mastery on your rings and weapon. Currently, Beast Mastery rotation follows a priority system, with your main goal being to keep up Frenzy stacks onto your pet with Barbed Shot, and then using Kill Command and Chimera Shot on cooldown, and Cobra Shot as a filler. You currently have a lot of offensive cooldowns as Beast Mastery. These are all of your Dire Beasts, Bestial Wrath, Murder of Crows and Aspect of the Wild. To burst, you first want to stack up your Barb Shot 2 times to gain the Frenzy buff, and then Aspect of the Wild to reset the cooldown on your Barb Shot to give you a third stack. Then you want to pop your Bestial Wrath, Murder of Crows and use Kill Command. Then summon your Dire Beasts, making sure you use Kill Command and Barb Shot as they come off cooldown, and using Cobra Shot as a filler. Combining these 5 offensive cooldowns with your 3 stacks of Frenzy can easily kill any target in a matter of seconds, meaning burst as Beast Mastery is insane. In regards to pet, you have the option to spec your pet into 3 specializations. These are Ferocity, Tenacity and Cunning. Currently for PvP, the best is Cunning, as it will give you access to a freedom and some increased movement speed, and focusing on getting a pet with the Grievous Bite special ability, giving you a Mortal Strike if your team does not have one. If you are running with a partner that already has a Mortal Strike debuff, you can take a Spirit Beast for the extra healing. That just about wraps up this Get Started guide for Beast Mastery. I hope you enjoyed, and please be sure to plus skill and leave any comments you still may have below.